Welcome to our latest HR newsletter, and as has become customary, we're happy to bring you this in written form as well as this video form. Now, it seems like only yesterday since we were breaking up for Christmas, but here we are already in the 6th month of the year, and it won't be long before we're closer to next Christmas than the last one. The start of this year, the first half, has been a welcome period of stability for the myHR department team. We've pared back our learning and development offering to focus on delivering training derived from our core strengths, and our recruitment services have returned to the headhunting style that's worked so well for clients in the past. And this is bolstered by the welcome return of Nida Atif, who was our original recruiter who joined myHR department some 8 or 9 years ago. Our own Gina Regan has long harboured a secret fetish for health and safety, and we were happy to support her in gaining her full NEBOSH accreditation, so that now adds health and safety to our client offering, delivered as always in our practical and pragmatic way, our typical myHR department style. We've been pleased to welcome Amritha Paris-Robeson, who's proved to be a great addition to our HR administrative capability, with our clients' desire for HR admin support at an unprecedented high. Given that context then, it's fitting that Emma Dozier, who recently passed her 5th anniversary with myHR department, has been appointed to the new role of Senior HR Administrator, with responsibilities for developing our HR administrative capability. Emma has a wealth of HR experience, and her encyclopedic knowledge of HR systems and processes, combined with a calm and good-humoured approach, is appreciated by our team and our clients alike. In July, we're looking forward to welcoming back Steph Setchell from her maternity leave. Steph is one of our business partners, HRBPs, and myHR department has grown a great deal since she left to have her son Freddie nearly a year ago. So there'll be plenty to keep Steph busy when she returns. Catherine and I are so very proud of the team at myHR department, led as ever by the tireless and effervescently positive Jessica Whelan. Our team helps clients get things done and has the skills, experience and know-how to fix, change and perfect people issues and processes. Our team strive to provide quality support and solutions across the whole range of HR, and though I say so ourselves, we're very good at it. Sadly, too many UK employers have HR support provided by organisations with plenty of marketing budget, but all too often inexperienced call centres distributing standard templates, pointless insurance policies and very little else. How many employers thought these might help them solve their problems, only to find themselves gaining another one and stuck with them for 5 years to boot? I don't know. April was the month that most of the statutory updates of employment law are brought into effect, and just in case you missed earlier updates, you can either visit our news pages or follow the links on screen, and that's the first link on my slide there. So on the subject of minimum wages, we also noted the eligibility for the top rate. The national living wage has dropped from 25 years of age a few years ago to 21 now, with further drops likely. This means that today's 21-year-old paid the minimum wage is 37% better off than an equivalent 21-year-old just 2 years ago. If you want to read more about this particular topic and see where it's likely to end up, then that article is linked on screen too. Before I move on from this slide, if you want to have all of the rates, measures, facts and figures at your fingertips, then we do have a comprehensive fact card. It's digital, and it's accessed from the home page of our website or via the final link on this slide. So if you haven't seen it before, let's go and have a look. And I'll go to my browser. Here is the fact card, and that contains all the statutory rates and measures and other information, holiday dates and so on that you're likely to need. And as I said, that's available from the home page of myHR department. Returning to April's developments, rolled up holiday pay used to be unlawful, but not anymore. From April, employers had the option to roll holiday pay into wages for irregular hours workers and part-year workers. And what's more, they can now safely use the 12.00% sum as the multiplier if they only allow the statutory minimum holiday entitlement of 5.6 weeks paid holiday per year, including bank holidays. Now, that change will have necessitated some changes to contracts and policies. So if you're planning to use rolled up holiday pay, please contact us here at myHR Department so we can make the various amendments and write your comms for you. Carers leave also arrived in April, and that's a new statutory right to a week per year unpaid to care for a dependent. Again, we've been updating policies for clients, and if you're not sure about anything, do get in touch. Women on maternity leave have been entitled to special protection from redundancy and have been given first dibs on available employment if their own role is to become redundant for some time, even if the employer feels they have more suitable and usually available candidates. Now, that special period of protection was extended from April to include the whole of the period of pregnancy and 6 months following return from maternity leave. And employees now have the right to request flexible working from day one of employment. At myHR Department, we've already seen cases where employees have applied for and have been offered full-time employment only to immediately submit a request for flexible working on the day they start. With a new Labour government planning on making the right to bring an unfair dismissal claim from day one of employment, employers would be wise to carefully and properly consider requests for flexible working before rejecting them. We've noticed finally that the press has caught up on what an incoming Labour government will do for employment law in the UK, and if you're an employer, you'll be understandably concerned. I've covered this in the last couple of updates, so I'm not going to say too much more about it, but you can read more if you want by following the link on screen. Now, it's fair to say Labour have been doing a fair bit of backpedalling on their employment law intentions since the election campaign began. So this is something of a moving feast, and it'll be interesting to see how things evolve over the coming few weeks as we approach the election. We'll bring you more updates on our LinkedIn pages and on the news pages of myHR Department. Later in the year, we'll have some amendments to TUPE, which will only impact you if you're planning on changing service providers, or you're a service provider winning a contract from another service provider, or if you're insourcing or outsourcing particular work or acquiring a business with employees attached to it, or indeed if you are selling one. Changes to TUPE are around consultation and basically allow direct consultation with employees in the case of small transfers and for smaller employers generally. So we were expecting those changes in July. The oncoming election is likely to affect that. Also, we were expecting in July, but I think that's now been put back to October, is the Employment Allocation of Tips Act 2023 being enacted this year, and that's to ensure that 100% of tips are distributed fairly and transparently among workers. The draft statutory code of practice is already published. It's just a question of when that legislation actually comes in. We're expecting also a new right for employees with unpredictable terms and conditions, and many 0 hours workers will fall into that category, to apply for have the right to apply for greater predictability of in particular working hours. But the bigger change, which is coming in October, is the new duty to prevent sexual harassment at work. We've featured numerous articles concerning sexual harassment, and this new duty will make it mandatory for employers to take reasonable steps to prevent sexual harassment in the workplace. And should they fail to do so, any tribunal award that's made against them could be uplifted by 25%. Last year, we released training and communication materials to enable myHR Department and JCHR clients to quickly and easily help raise awareness of sexual harassment. Our videos and resources have been accessed thousands of times and will remain free for our clients to use, and we'll continue updating those in time for the new legislation later in the year. I'm going to review two interesting employment tribunal cases before wrapping up this briefing. Now, the first is a stark reminder that no employer, regardless of size or sector, can ignore collective consultation rules. Mrs. Fennessy, who owned a popular Glasgow music venue, did just that, and the Scottish Employment Tribunal awarded her employees a compensation payment of 90 days' pay each. Worse still, Mrs. Fennessy's failure to follow the collective consultation rules was spread all over the national press, and the coverage certainly won't have done her reputation any good. Now, I have a certain sympathy for Mrs. Fennessy because it's alleged that the union representative concerned behaved very, very poorly. She will say his actions effectively destroyed her business, and on the accounts that I've read, those allegations seem to have quite a bit of merit to them. Now, that said, it is also evident that Mrs. Hennessy didn't follow the long-established processes associated with collective redundancies. Collective consultation requires a mechanical process. It starts with notifying the government. It's a multi-stage process, and actually it's quite easy when you know how, but it can seem daunting to employers carrying it out for the first time. At my HR department, we carry out lots of collective consultations for our clients. And whilst it's very time consuming, which is why we generally don't include it in our standard services, it is easy to get right with our support and providing we have enough time to prepare. A typical collective consultation might cost less than £20,000 to completely outsource. And this feels like a good use of resources when the alternative could be 3 months' pay per employee. So that's 5 years worth of pay if 20 employees are involved, more if there are more. On top of that, reputational damage could be a lot worse. By stark contrast, our second case also involves a lack of process, but this time the tribunal didn't find any fault with the employer. Here, an employee, a Mr. Matthews, was dismissed following a breakdown in the relationship between him and his managers, evidenced by his grievances, sickness, and reportedly some pretty belligerent behaviour on his part. A senior manager carefully considered whether the relationship could be repaired, and he concluded that it couldn't. But Mr. Matthews wasn't actually involved in that decision, he wasn't consulted, and ultimately he was dismissed. An employment tribunal agreed with the employer that any attempt to reconcile the situation would have been futile, and irrespective of the procedure followed, in the event none to speak of, Mr. Matthews would inevitably have been dismissed. Cases like Matthews versus CGI IT UK keep employment law interesting, and it reminds us that while fair processes are usually essential, every case needs to be considered on its facts. I hope this update was useful. My HR department provide outsourced HR services, and together with JC Payroll we provide HR, payroll, employment law and health and safety services through a single contract via JC HR. Our HR team also recruit for HR and other vacancies. While we're a prominent provider of outsourced HR and payroll, we provide both services separately, and our HR team also support in-house HR teams, most usually by helping with their employee relations cases and with their employment law needs. For a no obligation assessment of how partial or full outsourcing could help your organisation, or to discuss any of the other services I've mentioned, please contact us and we'll be happy to arrange a Teams meeting or attend in person if you prefer. Thank you for taking the time to review our latest HR and employment law update for employers.